My first guest has been called a hip-hop pioneer, rap guru, and a walking Grammy. I'm talking about multi-platinum selling 12-time Grammy-nominated producer, rapper, songwriter, Hall of Fame inductee, the Jermaine Dupri. I mean, so here's the deal. At only 19 years old, Jermaine Dupri became one of the youngest producers to ever have a #1 hit album. JD, as his friends call him, and I'm about to be his friend, was the mastermind behind Totally Crossed Out, the '92 debut of rap duo Kris Kross, turning two 13-year-old kids from Atlanta, Chris Smith and Chris Kelly, into a cultural phenomenon. Jermaine went on to launch the careers of artists like Bow Wow, Da Brat, Escape, just to name a few, and he spent the last 3 decades creating #1 hits for megastars like Usher, Mariah Carey, and the great Janet Jackson. But what I love about this hour today, this show today, all of our guests today, like Jermaine Dupri, they've had an impact and elevated culture as the founder and CEO of So So Def Recordings, bringing the innovative sound of Southern hip-hop and R&B to the world. Tam Fam, please welcome Grammy-winning, multi-platinum selling artist, mastermind of a whole genre, the Jermaine Dupri. Well, look who woke up bright and bubbly this morning. I love it. This is, okay, we gotta talk about the look, because that is a part of hip hop.
Yeah.
It's the music, it's the culture, it's the fashion, it's this touch point. Can you believe it's 50 years of hip hop?
Well, I can't believe it. Well, I can, but I can't because I'm 50, so it means, that means I'm hip hop.
You are 50, you are hip hop.
Yes.
You had your first big hit with Kris Kross, and then the iconic Babyface said, okay, that's great, but can you do it again?
Yes. I was living off the high of Kris Kross, like, I'm the greatest in the world, right? And he shut all of that down. Yeah, he shut all of that down. And on that day when he said that, I stopped thinking about Kris Kross and I started thinking about the next project. Although I was there working, I think I was working on something else, but I started thinking, you know, forward, like, okay. So my mind from that day forth, when I make a project, once I get 50, 60, 70% of the project done, I'm on to the next project.
You're on to the next. When did you know that you wanted to produce?
Well, we just lost my inspiration for production. Was Otis Redding III, which is Otis Redding's son. He just passed away. He produced my first record. I was 14 at this time, or 14, 15. He was young. He was like in his, I think, probably early, like late teens or early 20s or something like that. But he was young. He was young, and I went to the studio with him, and I was telling him what I wanted to do, and he was trying to do what I was telling him, but he also was doing what he, you know, showing me stuff. But he had his own studio, and he was just a young guy that was doing it, and he's the one that pushed the button to make me want to produce.
So you have an inspiration that ignites something in you, this kid that you are at the time, I'm going to produce. And
yes.
You come up with this concept of So So Def.
Yes.
It's an institution, Atlanta institution. Vibe magazine called you one of the most significant influencers in putting the South on the map.
Thank you, Vibe.
Thank you, Vibe. Do you feel that you put Southern hip hop on the map, or that sound on the map?
I think that I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, because and the reason why I say this, and I dedicate this me being here today to my father, because my father took Otis passing really, really hard recently, and he was telling me that was his first opportunity to actually go on the road and see the world was through the group of the Reddings. And what I had to say to my father was that, at what point do you realize, like, your son is, like, amazing? Right? No, and I said that to him, not, you know, like, not being sarcastic. I was really saying, like, at some point you have to you have to have a bar, a benchmark for your career, right? And people say I'm so humble and I'm this, that, and the third, and I basically never have a benchmark. So I'm gonna stop saying I don't know if I did it, because I did it.
You did it. Okay, so take me back, because you've mentioned your father a lot, and he's a musician. You get into the music business. Was he the true motivating factor? Did you see him as a person, I want to create something that he will enjoy or that he will respect?
No, not because I went in a different direction than what my father was basically. My father was more of a musician. So he got me into, I started playing drums when I was 3.
3?
You know, I was trying to be like my dad and play drums and be, you know, in the music. But going into production, he introduced me to Otis Redding. Like, because he was like my manager.
Favorite Otis Redding song?
Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, like. But yeah, well, not the Otis Redding the third. Yeah, so just so y'all don't know, I'm not that old. But yeah. So he introduced me to that, and I'm a kid at 14 years old that's working with Otis Redding. I'm in the same, you know, sphere as all of these people at such a young age. And then at 19, I put out my own group, Crisscross, and they become one of the biggest groups in the world. This is not regular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we just going through life, we never say, oh, this is not regular. But I'm telling him, like, at 50, it's time for you to realize it's not regular.